They were underestimated, overlooked, and often dismissed. But behind the scenes of one of the world's most secretive organizations, a quiet revolution was unfolding. Those are the words of former CIA intelligence officer Christina Hillsberg in her new book, Agents of Change. Hillsberg shares the untold stories of the pioneering women who transformed the CIA from inside out. The USA Today best-selling author is here. Christina, welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, just thank you for writing this book.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll talk about the book, but obviously you have a personal connection. It's a story of multiple women in the CIA. You yourself walked that walk.
That's right. I spent most of my 20s at the CIA. I was recruited from my college campus because I speak two African languages, Swahili and Zulu. And so I ended up working there. It was never the plan, but spent almost 10 years there before leaving and then becoming an author full time.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you had that personal experience. What then took it to the next level? You were a CIA agent for how long?
Almost 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
You left. Did you always have the intention to write a book? When did that start?
I didn't intend to write this book in particular, but I realized after having left and raising my family, my kids, that there were all these women who had come before me who I didn't really know their stories. And I'm seeing all these depictions of the female spy on screen, watching James Bond movies with my kids and seeing how the women are portrayed. And there are so many misconceptions. And so I thought I'm uniquely positioned to build trust with these women who came before me and really learn their stories and share them for historical record, but also to amplify women's voices at a very crucial time in our country.
Were these stories that would be told otherwise? If you had not asked these questions and put these stories out there, would they be out there?
No, there were so many women. I mean, I interviewed women even into their 90s who had never shared their stories before. And I like to say it's hard to throw a rock without like hitting a memoir of a man's old war stories. But for several reasons that we could go into, women are less likely to share their stories, and especially when it's work that's of a confidential national security nature.
How much, as you were writing and speaking to these women, sharing their stories, obviously you can't share everything. It's the CIA. How much is still untouched, do you think?
Oh, quite a bit. And I think I was, I mentioned uniquely positioned in that they trusted me because I was one of them, right? So there were some things we could talk about off the record, and then I knew what I was able to share and not share because, of course, we always want to protect our sources and methods because the people who choose to work with the CIA are doing so at great risk to themselves and their families. So want to take that very seriously, while at the same time sharing their stories in a way that's very relatable. These are women making choices about parenting, motherhood, elder care, and how to balance their career. And those are choices that resonate with women no matter what field they're navigating, and particularly a male-dominated space.
Right. Well, and what struck me when I started reading the book is there are women who would literally lie and say they were infertile because they were worried they would not get a job simply because they're a woman.
That's right, or they would be on the street 3 days after giving birth running an operation because they didn't want to lose that opportunity, because in the 60s and 70s women really had to convince their male colleagues that they were capable of running clandestine operations.
Do you think that's still true today?
Absolutely, and women oftentimes are even better at running clandestine ops than their male colleagues, and that came up time and time again in my research, that women felt that we could use the fact that we're underestimated to our benefit and blend into the background, which is ideal when it comes to espionage, but also some traits that women were inherently felt that they were better at, being more nurturing, more empathetic with their assets, detail-oriented, those types of traits.
And you said when you initially started writing this book, it turned into something that you weren't expecting. A lot of that, and this is a heavy subject, but a lot of that is related to sexual assault and harassment. What were some of the maybe surprises or maybe not surprises of stories that you heard?
It was surprising to see that thread woven throughout the decades. So the book is organized by decades, starting with 1960. And to hear stories from women who began their careers in the 60s or 70s that were also relatable to me decades later, created a bond between us, but it was also quite disheartening. And it ended up coming to a head in about 2020 when a few brave women at the CIA shared shared their stories with CIA leadership and went to Congress, which prompted an investigation into the CIA's alleged mishandling of reported sexual assault allegations. And the investigation did find them liable for mishandling this, and it led to some really positive changes, implementing some congressional oversight into a reporting mechanism. It's just a very difficult environment because it is toxic in a lot of ways in terms of being an old boys club, right? But you're also adding this layer of national security to it, which makes it especially complex.
Right. What now, in today's world of women who are in the CIA, is it better than it was in the 60s for these women who are in the early stages of this book?
Yes, I think really this book is meant to be a celebration of the progress the organization has made, while not shying away from some of the less favorable moments in the history or present day, right? And so there has been so much progress. I want to highlight those accomplishments, but also with the very strong caveat that work remains to be done.
Yep.
And that's why we continue to need women there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Well, Christina will be at a town hall, Seattle tonight, September 29th at 7:30 p.m. if you want to hear more from her.